Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, where once again I've taken this show of ours onto the road. Would you like to come to Barcelona, they said. Oh yes, I replied as I conjured up images of stocking up on vitamin D like some sort of podcasting squirrel before winter arrives. But it has rained ever since my plane touched down. But I'm not complaining. I mean, this story would be the epitome of first world problems if I did that. And let's be honest, walking the floors at an event like this and maybe a little side trip to the new camp during my downtime actually means that I'm in my element over here. And for me, the story behind Magento really does have it all. Yes, Magento empowers thousands of retailers and brands with some of the best technology out there, not to mention getting the latest business resources, community updates, software releases and so much more. But the real story is that it was built on open source technology and a passionate community before going on to be acquired by Adobe for $1.68 billion earlier this year. And Mark Lavelle, he has an equally fascinating story too, and many will remember his time at Bill Me Later, PayPal, eBay and of course Magento. So today I wanted to find out more about his stories, the lessons he learned along the way, and of course the future of Magento now that it's part of Adobe, and also what clients and the community can expect. But enough from me. Buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to Barcelona to the MagentoLive Europe event so we can speak directly with Mark Lavelle. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Mark. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Well, hello. Thanks for having me. Mark Lavelle. I am the Senior Vice President of Commerce at Adobe.
So this has been my 9th conference this year, and the big message being sent to all businesses in Europe and over in the US seems to be that experience-driven commerce is already here. But what is most interesting to me is that each and every one of us is driving this change with our own increasing expectation levels rather than businesses themselves. I mean, do you think that businesses are rising to the importance of this challenge as set by their own customers?
Well, some are, for sure, and I think you're right. If businesses think of their customer the way they think of themselves when they leave the office and their expectations, it would start to really sink into them just how high those expectations are. 24/7, we're always on. We expect to be able to access information about price, about product, about availability. We expect instant delivery. This is what we want in our daily lives. So I think as businesses put that reality in the center of the room and then start to build out their brand experience from there, they'll get it right.
So how do you think emergent technologies such as artificial intelligence have actually impacted commerce over the last few years?
Wow, you jumped right to artificial intelligence. Wow. There's a lot of steps in between. I think what our message is around, it's really not a technology problem right now. The technology's been there to really enable enterprises, businesses, small, medium, and large, to create a branded experience that's consistent across all these channels: social, marketplaces, native web, mobile apps, physical stores. And that is very doable, right? That is an execution that sometimes is a cultural change in terms of thinking of the customer as a digital experience. Mm-hmm. But to your point, what it gets to, what it really turns on then is, are you collecting all the information about how those experiences are getting through to the customer? And are you using that to make the process better continually? That's where artificial intelligence comes in. There's so much signal out there. I mean, eventually we'll be picking up voice transactions from our customers in a wired, speakered world where open mics are everywhere. And we'll need to discern what does that mean relative to the customer's intent, the type of customer it is, what content that you want to put in front of that customer, and ultimately, how do you deliver on the customer's expectations? So artificial intelligence comes from successfully getting to a point in this journey where you actually have this information and can begin to automate some of the things that today are kind of quite manual. Discerning intelligence, signal from noise, deciding which marketing event or trigger is the right one for the audience. That increasingly will become more automated as we move forward.
And as for voice search, which you mentioned there, how excited are you about that? Do you think that's much closer than a lot of us imagine?
We're moving into a new house right now, and it's kind of scary. They're putting in the audio visual stuff, which used to be just TVs and some phones, but now the speakers are going in. The voice automated technology in the home is a real thing. We're increasingly relying on it for recipes, for reminders, to play music. And ultimately, brands have to think about, resupply in the household will probably be the first one. Hey, we're out of tissue. And that just comes to the house. So it's exciting. It's kind of not there yet in terms of a very big material impact on I think, everybody's business, but it will be. Google, Amazon, Microsoft, now Facebook are putting these devices in homes, and it will have an impact.
So at other conferences this year, I've heard IBM say, don't use your competitors as the bar against which you measure yourself. Ask yourself what the last best experience you had, regardless of where they had it, because that becomes your bar. And Virgin, Adobe, at the Adobe conference earlier this year, Adobe also spoke about technological change is moving at breakneck speed, and businesses might feel like it's a struggle to keep up right now, but the reality is it's never going to be this slow again. What do you think the pace of technological change and rising expectations for superior experiences, what do you think that means for businesses going forward?
It's a slightly different view. It's like the weather. We have 2,000 people here at our first ever Pan-European conference, and the skies just opened up and it poured down rain. So we're having to kind of rejigger how we do things, and we're having to react. I think that's how organizations need to think about technology change. It's like the weather. You don't control it, but you can't anticipate it. You can't have contingencies. And that means having a platform that allows you to be nimble and allows you to anticipate, not necessarily know what's around the corner, but when something comes up, like, are people buying in social media? Are people actually going to order through a microphone in their home or their car? That you're able to extend your platform to that experience while not changing everything in your business, your content, your catalog, your orders, your brand. Your brand has to be expressed consistently across this, regardless of what technology is coming down around the corner. Mm-hmm. Technology tends to want to remove friction and improve things in our lives. And that's been predominantly the march of technology. You get into things like privacy, you get into disruption of other industries. But if you're forward thinking enough to know that you're riding a wave here, you're not really controlling it. That's how you have to think about your strategy. It's still you're trying to get through to your customer. Yeah. Those core principles remain the same.
So when it was officially announced that Adobe would be acquiring Magento, you said that the digital transformation starts with a creative spark or a specific business need and comes to life with best-in-class technology. And as part of Adobe, you saw a tremendous business opportunity to power experience-driven commerce for brands and merchants of all sizes. So now we're a few months on, what opportunities do you see on the horizon, and what excites you most about this partnership?
Well, to be honest, I realized how little I knew about what Adobe's enterprise digital experience business was and what they've done over the last 10 years. And it's pretty stunning. I think they have been architecting a vision of the world where the most important systems, the most important technologies in a business going forward are the experience technologies, the creation of content, the analytics, the management of audiences, the personalization, and then ultimately measuring how those are all affecting a customer's journey down to becoming a loyal customer, and widening the aperture, if you will, for what it means to have a customer experience. Mm-hmm. I think that's what the acquisition of Magento was about. Was Adobe realized it's not just about creating a great brand and having the customer really engaged. It's about handing that off very frictionlessly to a customer that wants to transact with you, whether it's downloading some content or subscribing to a service or buying an item. Yeah. That's a critical moment of truth in the journey. But it doesn't end there. What happens next is equally important. How are you following up with that customer? How have you fulfilled the service or the good? How do you handle errors or exceptions? Those are all part of the customer journey that Adobe can now attend to with Magento as part of the platform.
Now, I've recently spoken with Manchester United and Real Madrid, and their challenges of only being able to fit 70,000 to 90,000 fans into their venue on match day. Yeah, when they actually have hundreds of millions of fans all around the world.
That's true, yeah.
So we're here talking at MagentoLive in Barcelona, but our conversation is going to be listened to in 165 different countries all around the world. So when thinking about MagentoLive, are you aware that the event is much, much bigger than the four walls of that venue? And for people listening to us that cannot attend today, what is the key message that you want to drive home?
Well, we certainly are. We always are. Doing this podcast with you to get to your audience is an indication of it. In a couple of minutes, our CEO, Shantanu Narayan, will come on the main stage with me. That will be live streamed to the audience, because you're right. It's a global audience. It's a global mentality. It's great to get in to rooms and really talk to people and have that connection. That's always very important for Adobe and Magento. And yet we are always realizing that we're projecting to a global audience, people outside the room. So, the message we want to get across is one of optimism around this digital transformation, around leadership in the experience world. Adobe owns creative. Adobe owns experience management. There's not a lot of companies that can say that. And I think now, with the mastery of content and commerce with data, it's a very, very exciting time.
And last night I was at the pre-party and I got to talk to a lot of people. And what really resonated with me is how Magento was built on open source and a sense of community. And that community really seems alive and thriving at the moment. Is that something that you're passionate about too and want to keep that going?
I mean, there's nothing that makes me prouder than to hear you say that, because Magento is, of course, about technology, but Magento is different and very special because of the people that you met last night, and their energy and their creativity and their desire to really use that creativity and ingenuity to improve the businesses of their clients, and their clients' desire to improve the lives of their customers. And so that's what drives us. And when we hear that the community is excited and enthusiastic, we've done our jobs. Yeah. And so that we think about that a lot, and we try to project that through the conference. Like, we just don't have a user conference and a developer conference somewhere else. Our developers and our users meet with us together. And that's what's special about Magento.
Now, we do have a lot of startup founders listening to the show, and also a lot of business leaders that all like to learn from each other. And obviously, you've been on a fantastic journey from how Magento started to being acquired by Adobe. So are there any big lessons that you've learned in that time that you would pass on to other business leaders or other startup founders?
How much time do you have in your podcast? Are these like lengthy podcasts? Well, where do you want to start? I mean, I've been privileged to be part of a number of big events. So first, a startup called Bill Me Later, that we sold in 2008 to PayPal. Yeah. And I came across from the East Coast to the West Coast of the United States and just had a tremendous 6-year experience with eBay and PayPal. And one of the first companies that we acquired, that eBay had acquired as part of my tenure there, was a small company in California called Magento that was just getting its start. And we brought that business in 2011. And as fate would have it, when eBay and PayPal were splitting up as two separate businesses in 2015, we got the chance to put a management team together and spin Magento out again as an independent company. And so we're, as fate would have it again, we're now part of this wonderful organization called Adobe. So I guess the lesson there is you've got to go where your passions are. Mm-hmm. You have to go where you feel the energy pulling you. And for me, it was always this intersection between internet, data, commerce, payments. That's such a big market, such scale, so much change, so much ability to do good and build. And Magento really represented for me a really incredible business that meant a lot more than just the technology. It really does good in people's lives across the world, giving people access to technology, but giving businesses access to really powerful tools that help them connect with their customers.
So having spoken with many people on the show floor here at Magento, the most common question and reason people are excited to attend is, what is Magento doing next? I mean, is there anything else you can share with us today?
It's we're like kids in a candy store right now because we're now part of a global platform, a software company, a brand that is kind of top notch, that has assembled some of the coolest capabilities and technologies over the past, 2 decades, that we are now being asked, how can we leverage each other? And they've been phenomenal. It's only been 3 months. Very supportive of our business model, of our open approach to the community. And I would say 2 things. What's next is more of the same. Okay. We've been on a great trajectory over the past 3 years. I'm very proud of the team. I'm very proud of our partners and our developer community. So the things that we've been doing are working. We're going to continue to do them. But you'll see us get leverage from this incredible company called Adobe. The first being Magento's core product being integrated into the Adobe Experience Cloud business, which gives the thousands and thousands of Adobe customers access to really great commerce capabilities in a way they've never had before. Seamlessly integrated, intelligently wired such that Adobe's analytics and Sensei capabilities can start to do some of that automation that you asked me about earlier. And then for Magento, we are kind of pulling out capabilities such as personalization, analytics, targeting, campaign, and putting those into the Magento platform in ways that our customers can get easier access to those capabilities. So it's busy time, but it's fun. It's fun. We're really happy with where we are and optimistic about what's next.
Cool. So delivering exceptional e-commerce experiences is something that should be the top of every business's agenda right now. And the partnership of Magento and Adobe really does seem like the perfect fit, especially to make the process as easy as possible. But I do think that maintaining your sense of community and commitment to open source is equally as admirable too. So I wish you the best for the future, and a big thank you for speaking with me today.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
One of the biggest takeaways from the MagentoLive Europe event, after speaking with clients, customers, journalists and people from a variety of backgrounds, is yes, Magento is a tech company. And now that Magento is part of Adobe, we can expect more technology and more exciting projects and things to come on the horizon. But even that only tells half the story. And we shouldn't forget that Magento was built on open source technology and a passionate, vibrant community. And the main message that I would want to send over to you all is that community and collaboration with people all over the world is where the real success has come from. And maybe it's that perfect mix between technology and people and community is where the really exciting things happen. I do think we often get carried away with technology on its own, and we should never lose sight of the role that people play and the success of things. It's that energy, creativity, ingenuity of the people that I've spoken to over the last few days that is clear for all to see, and it really does feel like a living, breathing thing. And I do love how there isn't another user and developer conference somewhere else where the community is kept completely separate, but everyone meets here together, sharing their ideas. And I think that is what is really cool about MagentoLive. However, what makes this podcast different from others out there is it's not all about me spoon-feeding you Mark Lavelle's opinion today, and it's certainly not about me and my opinion either. It's about you sharing your ideas, your thoughts, and your insights. So I'm going to pass the virtual open mic over to you. If you drop by techblogwriter.co.uk, look for podcasts, you'll find a nice red button where you can just push and leave me a virtual voicemail with your thoughts. Equally, you can email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, or even tweet me at Neil C. Hughes. So if you do have any additional comments about what you heard today, the MagentoLive event, or anything at all, this is your show too, so I want you to use this platform to make your voice heard. But it's time for me to try and track down a few more guests for the show who are attending the event and maybe grab some snacks off trays I find lying around. So a big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.